My wife and I took a break to work on ourselves, but she took it as a pass to sleep around. Am I wrong for wanting to make this break permanent? We'd been married for 6 years when things started feeling off. Not bad, just stale. Like we'd become roommates who occasionally had sex. A therapist suggested a trial separation, 3 months to rediscover ourselves individually before recommitting to us. I moved into my brother's basement and threw myself into the gym, lost 30 pounds, started reading again, picked up woodworking. I was actually becoming the better version of myself we'd talked about. Meanwhile, my wife posted Instagram stories from bars every weekend, new dresses, new friends. I tried not to overthink it. Then my cousin Theo saw her at a club downtown. She was all over some guy in a suit. When I confronted her, she laughed. We're on a break. That's literally the point. To explore. I reminded her we'd agreed to work on ourselves, not see other people. She rolled her eyes. You're being controlling. This is why we needed space. I started asking around. Turned out she'd been with at least 4 different guys that people knew about. My best friend had seen her leaving a hotel with someone. My coworker's wife had spotted her on a dating app with our wedding photo cropped out. She'd updated her status to single. The breaking point came when I went to our house to grab some tools. Her car was in the driveway at 2:00 p.m. on a Tuesday. I heard voices upstairs, laughter. I stood in our kitchen listening to my wife with another man in our bed. The bed we'd picked out together, where we'd talked about starting a family. I didn't go upstairs. I just left. That night, I called the divorce attorney. She filed the paperwork within a week. When the process server showed up at our house, my wife called me hysterical. How could you do this? We were working on us. I almost laughed. No, you were working on your body count while I was working on myself. She begged for another chance, said the break had shown her what she really wanted, that she'd made mistakes, but now she knew I was the one. I asked her how many guys. She said it didn't matter. I said it did. She finally admitted 7. 7 different men in 12 weeks. The divorce moved fast since we had no kids and minimal shared assets. She kept calling, texting, showing up at my brother's place. She wanted to explain, to make me understand. She posted long captions about growth and forgiveness and how real love means accepting people's journeys. Her friends commented supportive messages about her strength during this difficult time. Then yesterday, my attorney called with news that changed everything. My wife had filed a countersuit. She wasn't just fighting the divorce. She was claiming I'd been emotionally abusive throughout our marriage, that the separation was my way of punishing her, that I'd isolated her from friends and controlled her finances. None of it was true, but her lawyer had compiled a 40-page document with text messages taken out of context, therapy notes twisted to support her narrative, and statements from her friends I'd never even met. The kicker, she was asking for alimony, and half my inheritance from my grandfather, which I'd received during our marriage but kept separate. Her lawyer claimed the emotional trauma I'd caused entitled her to compensation for years of suffering. I sat in my attorney's office reading through page after page of lies. Then I remembered something. During our marriage, I'd been the one handling our finances. I'd seen her credit card statements every month, and I'd kept them all. I pulled up my cloud storage and found 2 years of records showing charges at the same hotels, the same restaurants, all with a pattern. Always on nights she'd said she was working late or out with girlfriends. Our separation hadn't started 3 months ago. She'd been cheating the entire time. My attorney looked at the evidence and smiled. This changes everything. Tomorrow, we have our first mediation session. My wife thinks she's going to ruin me. She has no idea what I'm about to present. But here's what's eating at me. As I was going through those old statements last night, I found something else. Something that makes all of this so much worse than I thought. 3 charges to a women's health clinic, $847 each. All within the past 18 months. All on days she'd told me she was at work conferences. I called the clinic this morning, claiming I needed records for our insurance. They couldn't give me details without her consent, but they confirmed the dates matched their system. I pressed the receptionist. Can you at least tell me what kind of procedures cost that amount? There was a pause. Sir, I really can't. Please, I'm her husband. I need to know. Another pause. Then quietly, that's our standard fee for early term procedures. I can't say more. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel. 3 times. She'd been pregnant 3 times and never told me. We'd been trying to have a baby for the last 2 years of our marriage. She'd cried with me every month when her period came. We'd done fertility testing. The doctor said we were both fine, just needed to keep trying. Meanwhile, she'd been terminating pregnancies without telling me. Pregnancies that might not have even been mine. I called my attorney immediately. She listened in silence as I explained. We need a subpoena for those medical records, she said. This demonstrates a pattern of deception that completely undermines her abuse claims. No court will believe you were controlling when she was making major medical decisions without your knowledge. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all those months she'd looked me in the eye and pretended to want a baby. All those times she'd suggested we see a specialist. All those tearful conversations about maybe adopting if conception didn't work out. It had all been theater, and I'd been the only one who didn't know it was a performance. My brother found me in his basement at 3 a.m., surrounded by old photo albums from our marriage. You okay? He asked. I don't know who she is, I said. I thought I spent 6 years with someone, but that person never existed. He sat down next to me. You want my honest opinion? I nodded. You dodged a bullet. If you'd had kids with her, you'd be tied to this person for life. At least now you can walk away clean. He was right, but it didn't make it hurt less. The mediation session was scheduled for 10:00 a.m. at a conference room downtown. I arrived early with my attorney, Lynn. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd handled dozens of high-conflict divorces. Remember, she said as we set up, stay calm, don't react. Let the evidence speak for itself. My wife arrived with her lawyer, Preston Vale. He was exactly what I expected. Expensive suit, slicked back hair, the kind of shark who'd argue a stoplight was green if it benefited his client. My wife wore a conservative dress and minimal makeup. She looked small and vulnerable, calculated. The mediator, a gray-haired woman named Patricia Holbrook, explained the ground rules. Each side would present their position. We'd work toward a settlement that avoided court. Preston went first. He painted a picture of a controlling husband who'd isolated his client from friends and family, who'd managed all the finances to keep her dependent, who'd suggested the separation as punishment when she'd started asserting independence. The abuse claims were detailed and extensive. According to him, I was a master manipulator who'd gaslit my wife for years. My wife dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. She was good. I almost believed her myself. Then it was our turn. Lynn calmly presented the credit card statements. 2 years of charges at the Riverside Hotel. Always on Tuesday nights. Always coinciding with my wife's book club. Book club met on Thursdays, I said quietly. I know because I hosted it at our house 3 times. My wife's face went pale. Lynn continued. Charges at Romano's, an intimate restaurant across town. On our anniversary, while I'd been at home with dinner reservations she'd canceled, claiming she was sick. Charges at a boutique hotel in the suburbs. 8 different occasions. All during work hours. Preston tried to object. These charges don't prove infidelity. My client is entitled to her privacy. We're not done, Lynn interrupted. She slid a folder across the table. Subpoenaed phone records showing 847 text messages to a number registered to Vincent Palmer over the past 2 years, including 23 messages sent while my client and his wife were in marriage counseling. Vincent. I knew that name. He'd worked with my wife at her firm. She'd mentioned him exactly twice, both times saying he was annoying. 847 messages said otherwise. My wife's lawyer flipped through the records, his confidence visibly shaking. The mediator made notes. Then Lynn dropped the real bomb. And finally, we have subpoenaed medical records from Women's Health Partners. 3 procedures in 18 months. Each one terminated a pregnancy. Each one concealed from my client. The room went silent. My wife's head snapped up. You had no right. You waived your medical privacy when you claimed emotional distress, Lynn said calmly. The court granted our subpoena this morning. Preston was frantically reading the documents. His face told me everything. He hadn't known. She'd lied to her own lawyer. Given this evidence, Lynn continued, we're prepared to proceed to trial where we'll request the court award my client attorney's fees due to your client's bad faith claims. We'll also be filing a motion to dismiss the abuse allegations as defamatory and pursue sanctions against counsel for presenting a frivolous case. Preston held up a hand. Can we have a moment with my client? They stepped outside. Through the glass wall, I could see my wife gesticulating wildly. Preston's face remained stone. After 10 minutes, they returned. My client wishes to withdraw her countersuit, Preston said stiffly. We're prepared to accept a clean break with no alimony and no claim to the inheritance. Not quite, Lynn said. My client wants the house. The house is joint property. The house where your client committed adultery, where she brought men into the marital bed. My client is willing to buy out her half at current market value, minus the cost of replacing every piece of furniture she contaminated. I hadn't asked for that, but watching my wife's face crumble, I wasn't about to object. Preston whispered something to my wife. She nodded, defeated. Agreed, he said. The mediator drew up the settlement. We'd be divorced in 60 days. The house was mine. She'd get her personal belongings and her car. Everything else stayed with me. No alimony, no inheritance claim, clean break. As we signed the papers, my wife finally looked at me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't respond. What was there to say? We left the building separately. Lynn walked me to my car. You did good in there. Stayed calm. I don't feel calm, I admitted. Give it time. This was the hard part. Now you can actually move forward. She was right. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. That night, my brother took me out for drinks. To freedom, he toasted. To freedom, I echoed. But as I drove home alone, I realized freedom wasn't what I felt. What I felt was hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides and left a shell. I'd spent 6 years building a life with someone who'd been systematically dismantling it the entire time. 6 years of trust destroyed. 6 years of memories now tainted with doubt. Had any of it been real, or had I been a placeholder from the start? The next few weeks passed in a blur. I moved back into the house. It felt wrong without her there, but also right. My brother helped me haul out the bedroom furniture. We burned it in his backyard fire pit, watched 6 years turn to ash. I bought new furniture, repainted the bedroom, turned her office into a workshop for my woodworking. Slowly, the house stopped feeling like ours and started feeling like mine. My wife tried calling a few times. I never answered. She sent emails. I deleted them unread. She showed up once, but I'd changed the locks. She stood on the porch for 20 minutes before leaving. I heard through mutual friends that she'd moved in with Vincent. That lasted 3 weeks before he kicked her out when he found messages to someone else. She was living with her parents now, working remotely, avoiding anyone who knew what happened. I should have felt satisfied. I didn't. I just felt tired. 2 months after the mediation, the divorce was finalized. I got the papers in the mail, signed, sealed, official. I was single again at 31, starting over. My brother convinced me to make a dating profile. You're in great shape now. You've got your own house. You're a catch. I went on a few dates. Nice women, normal conversations, but I couldn't do it. Every time someone asked about my last relationship, I'd freeze. How do you explain that level of betrayal? How do you trust again after that? After the 4th failed date, I deleted the apps. I threw myself into work instead, picked up extra projects, stayed late. My boss noticed, promoted me, better pay, more responsibility. It helped fill the empty hours. I also started volunteering at a men's support group my therapist recommended. Guys who'd been through divorces, custody battles, financial devastation. Listening to their stories made mine feel less isolating. One night, a guy named Ricardo shared about discovering his ex-wife's affair. He'd found out on their 10th anniversary. She'd been sleeping with his business partner for 3 years. The worst part, he said, wasn't the cheating. It was realizing I'd been living in a lie. Every smile, every kiss, every I love you, all of it fake. Everyone nodded. We'd all been there. So how do you move past it? Someone asked. Ricardo thought for a moment. You don't move past it. You move through it. Some days are better than others, but it gets lighter. Not gone, just lighter. That stuck with me. 3 months post-divorce, I was getting ready for work when my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Theo, my cousin who'd first spotted my wife at the club. You need to see this, he said, shoving his phone in my face. It was an Instagram post. My ex-wife, heavily filtered, with a long caption about healing and growth, about how her divorce had been the catalyst for her spiritual awakening, how she'd learned to love herself and set boundaries with toxic people. The comments were sickening, hundreds of people praising her courage, calling her inspiring. One comment read, "You're so strong for leaving that situation. She's rewriting history," Theo said, making herself the victim. I handed back the phone. Let her. You're not pissed? I'm exhausted, Theo. I spent months fighting her. I won. What she posts on social media doesn't change that, but it did bother me, more than I wanted to admit. That night, I drafted my own post. The truth, all of it. The cheating, the lies, the abortions, the fake abuse claims. I had screenshots, evidence. I could destroy her carefully crafted narrative with one click. My finger hovered over the share button. Then I deleted it, because I realized something. She'd spent 6 years lying. To me, to herself, to everyone around her. That was her prison. She'd have to live in it forever, constantly maintaining the facade. I was free, actually free. Posting my truth wouldn't change that. It would just drag me back into her orbit, keep me connected to her story. I'd rather be forgotten than right. 4 months after the divorce, I went to my grandfather's grave. He'd left me $140,000 when he died, money my ex-wife had tried to take, money that was now safely in my savings account. I wish you were here, I told his headstone. You'd know what to do with all this. The wind picked up. Leaves scattered across the cemetery. My grandfather had been a carpenter, built houses his whole life, taught me how to measure twice and cut once, how to sand with the grain, how to respect the wood. I'd been thinking about his lessons a lot lately, about building things that last, about the importance of a solid foundation. My marriage had been built on sand. No wonder it collapsed. That weekend, I started a new project, a dining table, solid oak, 8 feet long, built to last generations. I worked on it every evening after work, measuring, cutting, sanding, joining. The physical labor was meditative. My hands knew what to do even when my mind was chaos. My brother stopped by one night while I was applying the finish. That's beautiful, he said. Thanks. You planning to fill all those seats? I shrugged. Someday, maybe. You'll find someone, he said. Someone real this time. I'm not looking. You don't have to look. Just be open when it happens. I wasn't sure I believed him, but I appreciated the thought. 5 months post-divorce, I ran into Vincent at the grocery store. He was in the produce section, looking at avocados like they held the secrets of the universe. He saw me, froze. I grabbed my cart and started to leave. Wait, he called out. Against my better judgment, I stopped. He walked over, hands shoved in his pockets. I didn't know, he said. About you. She told me you were separated, that it was mutual. It wasn't. I know that now. He looked genuinely miserable. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I studied his face. He'd lost weight. Had dark circles under his eyes. She do a number on you too? He laughed bitterly. You could say that. Turns out she was seeing 2 other guys while we were together. I found out when one of them showed up at my apartment looking for her. Sounds familiar. She's got issues, man. Real issues. I thought I could fix her, but he trailed off. Yeah, I said. I tried that for 6 years. We stood there for a moment. 2 guys who'd loved the same liar. She's still posting about personal growth, he said. I know. Doesn't it piss you off? Not anymore. That's her problem now. He nodded slowly. I should let you go. Take care of yourself, I said. As I walked away, I felt something unexpected. Pity. Not for him. For her. To be so broken that you destroy everyone who tries to love you. To live so deep in delusion that you can't see your own patterns. That was a special kind of hell. 6 months after the divorce, I finished the table. 8 feet of solid oak, hand-rubbed finish, mortise and tendon joints that would outlive me. I invited my family over for dinner to christen it. My parents, my brother, his wife, their 2 kids. We squeezed in, passed dishes family style, laughed until we cried. My mom caught my eye across the table. This is nice, she said quietly. Yeah, I agreed. It is. After everyone left, I sat alone at the table with a beer. The house was quiet, empty, but not lonely. I'd built something that would last, not just the table, myself. 7 months post-divorce, I got an unexpected call from Preston Vale, my ex-wife's attorney. This is awkward, he said, but I wanted to give you a heads up. Your ex-wife is planning to file a motion to modify the divorce settlement. On what grounds? She's claiming she was coerced into signing under duress, that the medical records we presented were obtained illegally. I felt my blood pressure spike. Are you kidding me? I'm no longer representing her, he said quickly. I withdrew from the case after mediation, but her new attorney is aggressive. I thought you should know. I called Lynn immediately. She listened calmly. Let her file. The settlement agreement includes language that specifically waives all future claims. She signed it willingly in front of a mediator. Plus, the medical records were legally subpoenaed. She doesn't have a leg to stand on. So we just wait? We wait. And when her motion gets dismissed, we file for sanctions. Again. 2 weeks later, my ex-wife's new motion was filed. It was 62 pages of creative fiction, claiming I'd threatened her into signing, that Lynn had bullied her, that the mediator had been biased. Lynn filed our response. 8 pages of facts, copies of the mediation agreement, Preston's affidavit confirming the settlement was negotiated fairly, the judge's order approving the subpoena. The hearing was scheduled for early December. I didn't have to attend, but I wanted to. I wanted to see this through. The courtroom was nearly empty. Just me, Lynn, my ex-wife, her new attorney, a young guy fresh out of law school who clearly didn't know what he was getting into, and the judge. Judge Rebecca Morrison had a reputation for being tough but fair. She'd reviewed all the filings in advance. When my ex-wife's attorney stood to argue, she held up a hand. Counselor, I've read your motion. I've also read the response and all supporting documentation. Before you proceed, I want to ask your client a direct question. My ex-wife stood. She'd gone for the vulnerable look again. Pale makeup, simple clothes, sad eyes. Ms. Palmer, the judge said, using my ex-wife's maiden name, did you sign the mediation agreement of your own free will? I felt pressured. That's not what I asked. Did anyone physically prevent you from leaving the mediation? No, but did anyone threaten you with violence or harm? Not exactly. Did you have legal representation present? Yes. And did that attorney advise you to sign? My ex-wife hesitated. He said it was the best option. Because your countersuit was based on fabricated evidence? Her new attorney jumped up. Your Honor, that's not... Sit down, counselor. I'm asking your client a question. Judge Morrison turned back to my ex-wife. The medical records presented during mediation, were those records false? No, but they were private. Were they legally subpoenaed? I guess, but there's no guessing. Either the court issued a subpoena or it didn't. Which is it? The court issued it, my ex-wife admitted quietly. And the credit card statements showing your affairs, were those fabricated? Silence. Ms. Palmer? No, she whispered. Judge Morrison sat back. Then you signed a settlement agreement that accurately reflected the facts of your marriage. You had legal counsel. You weren't coerced. You're simply unhappy with the consequences of your own actions. She picked up her gavel. Motion denied. Furthermore, I'm sanctioning you and your attorney $5,000 for filing a frivolous motion. You have 30 days to pay. The gavel struck. My ex-wife's face crumbled. Outside the courtroom, Lynn shook my hand. That's the end of it. She's exhausted her options. It's over. Over, I repeated. The word felt foreign. I walked to my car in a daze. Over. After 8 months of hell, it was actually over. I drove to the cemetery, stood at my grandfather's grave. It's done, I told him. She's gone. Really gone. The December wind was bitter. I pulled my coat tighter. I'm going to be okay, I said. I think. 8 months post-divorce. The holidays were approaching. My first Christmas single in 7 years. My mom invited me for Christmas Eve. The whole family will be there. I'll come, I said. Thanks, Mom. You doing okay? Really? Yeah, I am. And I meant it. The hollow feeling had faded, replaced by something steadier. Not happiness exactly. More like peace. I spent Christmas Eve with my family. Watched my nephew and niece open presents. Helped my dad fix the garbage disposal. Ate too much ham. Normal things. Good things. On Christmas morning, I woke up in my house. My table sat in the dining room, waiting for the next gathering. Sunlight streamed through windows. I'd washed myself. I made coffee, read the newspaper, worked on a new project in my shop. Later, I drove to the gym. It was nearly empty on Christmas Day. Just me and a few other people with nowhere else to be. I ran on the treadmill, watching snow fall outside the window. And somewhere during mile 3, I realized something. I was happy. Actually, genuinely happy. Not because of someone else. Not because I'd found a new relationship or gotten revenge or won some cosmic battle. Just happy. On my own. By myself. The divorce hadn't broken me. It had freed me. 9 months after the divorce, spring arrived. I planted a garden in the backyard. Tomatoes, peppers, herbs, stuff I'd always wanted to grow but my ex-wife said would attract pests. I started saying yes to things. My brother's poker nights, a woodworking class at the community college, a weekend hiking trip with some guys from work. Life was full. Not perfect, not what I'd planned, but full. One Saturday in April, I was at the hardware store buying lumber when I literally bumped into someone. Wood fell everywhere. I'm so sorry, we both said at the same time. I looked up. She had paint-splattered overalls and her hair in a messy bun. She was laughing. This is embarrassing, she said, helping me gather the fallen boards. My fault. I wasn't watching where I was going. What are you building? She asked, looking at my cart full of cherry wood. Bookshelf, custom built in for my living room. Her eyes lit up. That's amazing. I can barely hang a picture frame without destroying the wall. I laughed. It's all about finding the studs. That's what she said, she replied without missing a beat. I burst out laughing. She grinned. I'm Diana, she said, extending her hand. Nice to meet you, Diana. And just like that, I introduced myself. Not as someone's ex-husband, not as a divorced guy starting over, just as myself. We talked for 20 minutes in the lumber aisle. She was renovating a house she'd just bought, teaching herself home improvement through YouTube videos and pure stubbornness. If you ever need help, I heard myself say, I'm pretty handy. Yeah? She pulled out her phone. Give me your number. I'm battling this kitchen cabinet situation that might require professional intervention. I gave her my number. She texted me immediately so I'd have hers. There. Now you can't escape when I inevitably call you at 2 a.m. because I've somehow flooded my kitchen. I look forward to it, I said. And the weird thing was, I meant it. We went our separate ways. I finished my shopping, drove home, unloaded the wood. My phone buzzed. A text from Diana. Serious question. Can you install a garbage disposal, or is that asking too much for a first project together? I smiled. Typed back. I can handle a garbage disposal. Fair warning though, I work for pizza. Deal. When are you free? This weekend? Perfect. I'll provide beverages and moral support. I set down my phone, looked around my house, the table I'd built, the refinished floors, the workshop I'd created. I'd built a good life, a solid foundation, and maybe, just maybe, I was ready to let someone see it. That weekend, I drove to Diana's house with my tool bag. She answered the door in the same paint-splattered overalls, covered in what looked like drywall dust. Don't judge, she said. I may have accidentally punched a hole in the wall trying to move the refrigerator. No judgment. I once dropped a sledgehammer through my ceiling. Her house was a disaster in the best way. Mid-renovation chaos. Drop cloths everywhere. Exposed brick she was trying to preserve. Hardwood floors she was refinishing herself. You're brave, I said, looking around. Brave or stupid? The line is blurry. We spent the afternoon installing the garbage disposal. Well, I installed it while she handed me tools and told me about the house. She'd bought it at auction. Got it cheap because it needed work. Spent every weekend fixing it up. Why do all this yourself? I asked. She was quiet for a moment. I got divorced last year. Needed a project that was completely mine. Something I built from scratch, you know? Yeah, I said. I know. We locked eyes. Understanding passed between us. How long? She asked. 9 months. You? 14 months. Does it get easier? She smiled sadly. Some days. Other days I still want to key his car. I laughed. Fair. We finished the disposal. It worked perfectly. She insisted on ordering pizza as promised. We sat on her back porch, eating straight from the box, watching the sunset. Can I ask what happened? She said. Or is that too personal for a first non-date? Is this a non-date? Well, you did install my garbage disposal. That feels pretty intimate. I told her. Not everything, but enough. The trial separation, the cheating, the lies, the messy aftermath. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she took a sip of her beer. My ex-husband decided he was in love with his CrossFit instructor, she said. Found out when I saw a charge for a couples massage on our joint credit card. I don't do CrossFit. Ouch. Yeah. The kicker? He tried to get me to pay for the divorce because he was cash poor from all his personal training sessions. Did you? Hell no. I got a shark of a lawyer and took him for everything I could. Not because I'm vindictive. Okay, maybe a little vindictive. But mostly because he'd spent 5 years telling me I'd never make it without him. I wanted to prove him wrong. Did you? She gestured around. I'm renovating a house by myself. I think I'm doing okay. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. This is nice, she said eventually. Talking to someone who gets it. Yeah, it is. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother. Where are you? Poker night. I should go, I said reluctantly. My brother's expecting me. Rain check on the drywall repair tutorial? Absolutely. Over the next few months, Diana and I became friends. Real friends. I'd come over on weekends to help with projects. She'd bring beer and enthusiasm. We'd work for hours, talking about everything and nothing. She met my family at a barbecue, helped my nephew build a birdhouse, made my mom laugh with stories about her renovation disasters. I like her, my brother said, watching Diana explain proper miter saw technique to his son. We're just friends, right? Friends who spend every weekend together. I'm helping with her house. Uh-huh. And she just happens to be smart, funny, and attractive? Shut up. But he had a point. Somewhere between the garbage disposal and refinishing her bathroom, I'd started looking forward to our weekends, started thinking about her during the week, started wondering if, maybe, 1 year after my divorce, I took Diana to dinner. An actual date. Not a hardware store encounter or a renovation project. A real, deliberate date. She wore a dress. I wore a button-down shirt. We went to a nice restaurant, ordered wine, had actual conversations that didn't involve power tools. Over dessert, she reached across the table and took my hand. I need to tell you something, she said. My stomach dropped. Okay, I'm scared. Of this. Of us. My ex really did a number on me. Made me think I was too much, too loud, too independent. And I'm terrified of getting hurt again. I squeezed her hand. I get it. My ex made me feel like I was never enough, like I was the problem. It took me a long time to realize she was the one who was broken, not me. So what do we do? Honestly, I have no idea. But I know I don't want to stop seeing you. You make me laugh. You challenge me. You're the first person in a long time who makes me want to try again. She smiled. I want to try too, but slow. Slow works for me. We took it slow. No rushing, no pressure, just honest conversations and genuine connection. She met my friends. I met hers. We went to dinner parties as a couple, took weekend trips, built a life that belonged to both of us. But the best part? The quiet moments. Saturday mornings at her house, drinking coffee while planning the week's renovation projects. Sunday evenings at mine, cooking dinner together at the table I'd built. She understood my trust issues because she had her own. We talked through them, worked on them together. 18 months after my divorce, I asked Diana to move in with me. Are you sure? She asked. That's a big step. I'm sure. You're already here most nights anyway. And I like coming home to you. I like that too. But what about my house? I'm not done renovating. We'll finish it together. Then we can rent it out or sell it. Whatever you want. She thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Okay, yes, let's do it. Moving her in was chaos. She had so much stuff, furniture from her house, tools, half-finished projects. We spent a weekend reorganizing everything, making space for her in my life, our life. That night, we collapsed on the couch, exhausted and surrounded by boxes. "This is insane," she said. "Good insane or bad insane?" "Good. Definitely good." 2 years after my divorce, I was sitting at my dining table with Diana, my family, and a few close friends. We were celebrating my birthday. Nothing fancy, just good food and better company. My brother raised his glass. "To my little brother, who survived hell and came out stronger. To new beginnings," my mom added. "To finding the right person," Diana said, squeezing my hand. We all drank, laughed, ate too much cake. Later, after everyone left, Diana and I cleaned up together. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" "For being patient with me, for understanding why I needed to take things slow, for not giving up when I was still figuring my shit out." She kissed me. "You did the same for me. We healed each other." "Yeah, we did." That night, lying in bed next to Diana, I thought about my ex-wife. Wondered where she was, if she'd ever figured out what she was running from. I didn't hate her anymore. Didn't love her either. She was just someone I used to know. Someone who'd taught me what I didn't want. And that was okay, because I'd found what I did want. Not perfection, not a fairy tale, just something real, something honest, something built on a foundation that would last. The next morning, I woke up to Diana already in the workshop, working on a project. I made coffee and brought her a cup. "What are you making?" I asked. "A bookshelf for my dad's birthday. Think you can help?" "Always." We spent the day in the workshop, measuring, cutting, sanding, building something together, and I realized this was what I'd been missing before. Partnership, equality, someone who showed up and did the work. My ex-wife had been a ghost in our marriage. Present, but absent. There, but not really. Diana was solid, real. When she said she'd be somewhere, she was there. When she made a promise, she kept it. That was worth more than any apology my ex-wife could have offered. 3 years after my divorce, I ran into my ex-wife's mother at the grocery store. I hadn't seen her since before the split. "Hello," she said stiffly. "Hi." Awkward silence. "How are you?" she finally asked. "Good. Really good, actually. I heard you're seeing someone. Small town. Everyone knew everything." "Yeah, Diana. She's great." More silence. "My daughter," she started, then stopped. "She's struggling." I didn't know what to say to that. "She made mistakes," her mother continued. "Big ones. I know that, but she's my daughter. I understand. Do you?" Her eyes were wet. "She lost everything. Her marriage, her reputation, most of her friends. She can barely leave the house without people whispering." Part of me wanted to feel vindicated. The larger part just felt sad. "I'm sorry she's struggling," I said honestly. "But those were consequences of her choices, not mine." "I know. I just thought you should know she's not doing well. What do you want me to do about it?" "Nothing, I suppose. She trailed off. "I thought you'd want to know." I wanted to be cruel, to say something cutting. But looking at this woman who'd loved me like a son for 6 years, I couldn't. "I hope she finds help," I said. "Real help. But I can't be part of that process." She nodded. "I know. Take care of yourself. You too." I told Diana about it that night. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Honestly, nothing. I used to imagine running into her or her family, what I'd say, how I'd make them understand what she did to me. But now, I just feel nothing. That's probably healthy." "Yeah, probably. You've moved on. Really moved on." "I have, thanks to you." She shook her head. "You did the work yourself. I just showed up when you were ready." 4 years after my divorce, I proposed to Diana. Nothing fancy. Just the two of us on a hike, at the summit of a mountain we'd been climbing all morning. "Marry me," I said. She laughed. "That's your proposal?" "I don't need a big speech. I just need you. So, marry me?" She kissed me. "Yes, obviously yes." We got married in my backyard. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. My brother was my best man. Diana's sister was her maid of honor. It was perfect, simple, real. During the reception, my mom pulled me aside. "I'm proud of you," she said. "For what?" "For not letting what happened make you bitter. For being brave enough to try again. I had good role models. Your father and I aren't perfect. Nobody is. But you showed me what a real partnership looks like. That's what I needed." She hugged me tight. "She's good for you." "Diana." "Yeah, she is." That night, as Diana and I slow danced under string lights in the backyard, I thought about the journey that brought me here. The pain, the betrayal, the slow rebuilding. All of it had led to this moment, and I wouldn't change a thing, because sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing. It clears out the rot, makes room for something stronger. My first marriage had been built on lies. This one was built on truth, and that made all the difference. 5 years after my divorce, Diana and I celebrated our first anniversary. We went back to the hardware store where we met, stood in the lumber aisle like idiots laughing. "Best accident of my life," she said. "Same." We bought lumber for our next project, a crib. Diana was 3 months pregnant. Life had a funny way of working out. Standing in the nursery, we were building together, painting walls and assembling furniture. I realized something. My ex-wife had tried to destroy me, had taken everything she could, had lied and manipulated and hurt me in ways I didn't think were possible. But she'd failed, because I was still here, stronger, happier, building a life with someone who actually deserved to be in it. And that was the best revenge of all. Not bitterness, not anger, just living well. 6 years after the divorce, I was coaching my daughter's soccer team. She was 5 now, had Diana's laugh and my stubbornness, was perfect in every way. After practice, one of the other dads approached me. "Hey, you're the guy who did that amazing woodwork at the school fundraiser, right?" "Yeah, that was me. I've been wanting to commission a piece." "You do custom work?" "Sometimes." "What did you have in mind?" We talked details, exchanged numbers. I drove home with a potential new project, and my daughter chattering about soccer in the back seat. Diana was making dinner when we got home. The house smelled like garlic and tomatoes. "How was practice?" she called. "Good." "Mom, I scored 3 goals," our daughter yelled, running to hug Diana. "3? That's amazing." I watched them together. My family, my real family. And I thought about how 7 years ago I'd been sitting in a mediator's office watching my life implode, how I'd thought I'd never recover, how wrong I'd been. Sometimes the life you planned falls apart, and sometimes that's exactly what needs to happen. So you can build something better, something real, something that lasts. I'd built that table 7 years ago, thinking I'd be eating at it alone forever. Now it was covered with crayon drawings and homework and family dinners, full of life, full of love, full of everything my first marriage never was. And every time I sat at it, I remembered, not the pain, not the betrayal, just the lesson, that sometimes losing everything is the first step to having it all.